Hi friends, my name is Nate Nims. Thank you for joining us for this Good Friday experience with the Stations of the Cross. The Stations of the Cross help us to participate in the story of Christ's Passion by finding ourselves in these moments, these scenes that show us God's love and grace that is even found on the cross. This evening, I hope you will find yourself in this story and see how God's love keeps shining through again and again and again. We will have moments of readings, moments of music, and through it all, we will see this love of God that says we are forgiven even when we don't know what we are doing, even when we find ourselves putting Christ on the cross. God's love remains. So may we seek to live into this love as we now share the story of Christ's Passion with one another.
While Jesus was speaking, Judas arrived. He was one of the 12 disciples. A large crowd was with him. They were carrying swords and clubs. The chief priests and the elders of the people had sent them. Judas, who was going to hand Jesus over, had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man," he said. "Arrest him." So Judas went to Jesus at once. He said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and he kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came to do." Then the men stepped forward. They grabbed Jesus and arrested him. At that moment, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword. He pulled it out and struck the slave of the high priest with it. He cut off the slave's ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "All who use the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I can't ask my Father for help? He would send an army of more than 70,000 angels right away. But then, how would the scriptures come true? They say it must happen this way." At that time, Jesus spoke to the crowd. "Am I leading a band of armed men against you?" he asked. "Do you have to come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courtyard teaching, and you didn't arrest me. But all this has happened so that the words of the prophets would come true." Then all the disciples left him and ran away.
It was very early in the morning. The chief priests, with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they tied Jesus up and led him away. Then they handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests brought many charges against him, so Pilate asked him again, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they charge you with?" But Jesus still did not reply. Pilate was amazed. It was the usual practice at the Passover feast to let one prisoner go free. The people could choose the one they wanted. A man named Barabbas was in prison. He was there with some other people who had fought against the country's rulers. They had committed murder while they were fighting against the rulers. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to let the king of the Jews go free?" asked Pilate. He knew that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him because they wanted to get their own way. But the chief priests stirred up the crowds. So the crowd asked Pilate to let Barabbas go free instead. Then what should I do with the one you call King of the Jews? Pilate asked them. Crucify him. The crowd shouted. Why? What has he done? Asked Pilate. But they shouted even louder, Crucify him. Pilate wanted to satisfy the crowd, so he let Barabbas go free. He ordered that Jesus be whipped. Then he handed him over to be nailed to a cross.
As the soldiers led Jesus away, they took hold of Simon. Simon was from Cyrene. He was on his way in from the country. They put a wooden cross on his shoulders. Then they made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed Jesus. Some were women whose hearts were filled with sorrow. They cried loudly because of him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. The time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the women who can't have children. Blessed are those who never gave birth or nursed babies.' It is written, 'The people will say to the mountains, fall on us. They'll say to the hills, cover us.' People do these things when trees are green. So what will happen when trees are dry?"
Also led out with Jesus to be killed. Both of them had broken the law. The soldiers brought them to the place called the Skull. There they nailed Jesus to the cross. He hung between the two criminals. One was on his right and one was on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing." The soldiers divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood there watching. The rulers even made fun of Jesus. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and poked fun at him. They offered him wine vinegar. They said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." A written sign had been placed above him. It read, "This is the King of the Jews."
O my soul, what
One of the criminals hanging there made fun of Jesus. He said, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself. Save us." But the other criminal scolded him. "Don't you have any respect for God?" he said. "Remember, you are under the same death sentence. We are being punished fairly. We are getting just what our actions call for. But this man hasn't done anything wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "What I'm about to tell you is true. Today you will be with me in paradise."
Jesus' mother stood near his cross. So did his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Jesus saw his mother there. He also saw the disciple he loved standing nearby. Jesus said to his mother, "Dear woman, here is your son." He said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciple took her into his home.
Later, Jesus knew that everything had now been finished. He also knew what Scripture said must come true. So he said, "I am thirsty." A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it. They put the sponge on the stem of a hyssop plant. Then they lifted it up to Jesus' lips. After Jesus drank, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and died.
It was preparation day. The next day would be a special Sabbath day. The Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath day. So they asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers came and broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus. Then they broke the legs of the other man. But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead. So they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers stuck his spear into Jesus' side. Right away, blood and water flowed out. The man who saw it has been a witness about it. And what he has said is true. He knows that he tells the truth. He is witness so that you also may believe. These things happened in order that Scripture would come true. It says, "Not one of his bones will be broken." Scripture also says, "They will look to the one they have pierced."
Later, Joseph asked Pilate for Jesus' body. Joseph was from the town of Arimathea. He was a follower of Jesus, but he followed Jesus secretly because he was afraid of the Jewish leaders. After Pilate gave him permission, Joseph came and took the body away. Nicodemus went with Joseph. He was the man who had earlier visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought some mixed spices that weighed about 75 pounds. The two men took Jesus' body. They wrapped it in strips of linen cloth along with the spices. That was the way Jews buried people. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden. A new tomb was there. No one had ever been put in it before. That day was the Jewish preparation day, and the tomb was nearby. So they placed Jesus there.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord?